Conversations, inspiration.
Is there anything she can't handle? She looks fear in the face day after day, but yet she never runs. She's unbreakable. She's a warrior. She's you.
Growth.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Community.
These things happen because you have to live your true self in a bigger way.
You'll hear celebrity interviews, healers, inspirational, and hilarious stories. Most importantly, Maria wants to talk with you. Now, here's your host, Maria Menounos.
Well, happy Tuesday, everybody. We've got a really special show for you today. We have a very special guest today, and I'm going to start the show with her and use the entire hour for it because she's amazing. She is a holistic health and wellness coach. She is here to discuss the power of healing from within. She uses effective stress reduction techniques based upon the principles and practices of mind-body medicine and spiritual practices to create a life in balance, body, mind, heart, and soul. Please welcome Dianne Porchia. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Maria.
Full disclosure, everyone, I have worked with Dianne. And I started to work with Dianne after the documentary that I discovered called Heal that Kelly Noonan had directed and produced. And I remember coming in after seeing it and being like, oh my God, this documentary is amazing. And the one person I needed to meet and work with was you, Dianne. Like, I'm like, I have to meet her and I have to work with her. And in just a few sessions, I saw so many results. Like, I don't know if we really get to talk about that very much, but even just the what would you call the practice of having to read that forgiveness thing that you wrote for me?
I just, call it the grounding process. It's neuro-linguistic programming is what it is. And it's about grounding the new awarenesses after we've done the deeper healing work on the heart and the soul levels. So the kind of roadmap for the whole process is 3 sections. They don't necessarily happen sequentially, but the first part is about aiming and targeting and identifying where in the body the discomfort or the dis-ease resides. And so that is looking at through the closed eye meditations that you'll remember that I did with you is going inside and reaching those deeper levels, similar to a hypnosis that gets you out of that rational thinking mind and down into the heart and the soul level where the healing really takes place. So, and then through a technique called Somatic Dialog, accessing those parts of the body that are holding on to physical tension. And when we start dialoguing with that, it really takes us into much deeper levels where we access early childhood experiences. And so often, there's trauma and just disempowering beliefs that maybe someone has held with them throughout their life that has played out in their whole life.
Mm-hmm. Before we get deeper into that, because I want to share, and I have shared the sayings that I had to say because it was so helpful. I do want to let you guys know a little bit about Dianne. So not only was she in that documentary Heal, but she holds a master's degree in spiritual psychology. There was a lot of stuff here. I was like, holy moly. You're very decorated. A master's degree in spiritual psychology, diplomat designation from the College of Mind-Body Medicine, bachelor's degree in fine arts, certification in therapeutic touch, massage, acupressure, craniosacral therapy, undergraduate training in yoga, body movement, all kinds of things, dynamic psychology. I mean, you're a member of the American Holistic Health Association and the American Association of Integrative Medicine, so you definitely know your stuff. And the thing that you made me read and write every day, this practice, it helps kind of, was it creating new pathways?
Yeah, it's creating new neural pathways.
Yeah.
So what we have through habitual thinking is that inner saboteur voice, that resides on the inside, the subconscious that says, don't believe I'm lovable, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough. And what I like to explain is that, no amount of positive affirmations is going to override that loud inner saboteur voice that doesn't believe it.
Interesting.
So the affirmations I use as a grounding tool after we've done the healing process on deeper levels. So we're accessing, the healing takes place at the heart and soul level and not in the rational mind where all the protection mechanisms reside.
And so you individualize them for everyone, because I know Kevin went and he has his laminated in the shower so he can read them in the shower. Amy is everywhere on his office. But the key is to memorizing it and having it just become like kind of one with you.
Yeah, because after a certain amount of time,
30 days, right?
Yeah, 32 days is 32. The amount of time that it takes to create a new neural pathway and kind of override that old program that is disempowering. And if you can tell if you're finished with it or not by if it still holds any energy, So maybe it doesn't take 32 days. Maybe it's over sooner than that. Or maybe it takes longer, if there's still some emotional energy charge to the forgiveness part,
Yeah. Yeah, like I liked the one that I had to say, which was, I forgive myself for judging myself as guilty and responsible for others. And in my new awareness, I know that I'm deserving of making self-honoring, self-loving, and self-nurturing choices for my own health and happiness. And that stuck with me, and it helped me so much because I felt like I was so responsible for everyone's happiness, my family's happiness, my friends' happiness and health, and anything that went wrong. I mean, I needed to be the superhero that like charged in and like made everyone happy. And so, for instance, yesterday, I got all these like 911 texts from my brother that my mom got some bad news from a doctor, and everyone's crying, and my mom's prepping my dad for her to die, and like meanwhile, I'm at the motion picture home volunteering, and I'm sitting with this lovely elderly couple, and the husband has stage 4 lung cancer, and he's going to get news today on how he's doing, and they're going through their stuff, and I get this text after I leave, because luckily I was giving them my full attention, and I was like, oh my God, my heart sank into my stomach again. I'm like, this can't be happening. And I was like, no, this is not happening. And I'm not allowing this to happen. I'm going to like change the energy right now. I'm not buying into this. This is just them being dramatic. Where normally I would be like, I got to get on a plane. And dramatic and crazy like them. And I was like, no, they definitely don't have the right information. And by the time I uncovered it, because I stayed calm and because I kept a positive attitude. Of course, when I dissected everything, and God bless the doctor, Joan from Brigham and Women's, who called me at 10 p.m. last night, her time. I was like, my family thinks that my mom is dying. You need to please call me and tell me that this is not the case. And she's like, no, I'm so sorry. Your mom interpreted things like that. But because my mom has brain cancer and she's not like, she hears something is bad and she spirals instantly.
Right.
And so, and it's not necessarily bad, but I was able to give them good advice and to say, everyone stay calm. And then after I got the right information, I said, now everyone, no one has any reason to be depressed. Everyone calm down. And then I removed myself. I was like, now I'm going to go back to my life and be calm and try not to worry. Although I did wake up at 5 a.m, worried. Yeah. But then I had to redo the process and say this all and say, no, this is them being crazy right now, and don't let them make me crazy.
Well done.
Right?
Good job, Maria. You've learned well.
I have, and it's because of you. So there's so many things that I want to get to, but I feel like, if you can explain exactly what you do for someone who's listening, who doesn't know what you do, explain what you do. And then I want to get into the work you do with cancer patients, because what drew me to you was your work in the documentary Heal, where you helped Elizabeth, who had stage 4
anal cancer,
recover. And I think that people need to know all of the things that are possible, and how much the emotional state of someone is important in the battle against cancer.
Yeah. So I'll start with the kind of overview of how I work. And the first section is about, targeting and finding where the dis-ease or the discomfort is residing in the body, right? And we do that using, techniques like somatic dialogue, where we actually dialogues with those parts of the body that are holding on to tightness and tension. And it isn't necessarily the place of the body that's experiencing disease, right? So oftentimes the part that's holding the tightness and the tension is in the chest, the heart area, the chest, the stomach. Mm-hmm. And when we dialogue with those parts of the body, we come up with all sorts of additional information to work with, stuff that comes up from way back. And so when things come up from early childhood, then it gives us more things to work with. And we do that work on a much deeper level, kind of, during like a hypnotic or hypnosis relaxation, where you're still very alert, your mind is very alert, but you're very relaxed. And so we can access more information that resides at deeper levels. And there's all sorts of things that people will come up with that they didn't even remember, in their conscious mind. But then, it just resurfaces, and it doesn't necessarily happen in the first session, but over, a period of sessions. So I usually ask my clients to, after they have an initial session with me, if the work and my approach resonates with them, I ask them to commit to 4 sessions. And they can, be spread out as either weekly or every other week, whatever schedule is suitable for them. And we do the work. It takes kind of consistency and building of trust in a relationship to really make those steps forward in a process like this. And then when we get to these deeper levels and we look at and dialogue with, that hurt little child that resides inside. So that little 5-year-old child that didn't have a voice to speak up for herself at that young age now can do that at a deeper level, at that kind of subconscious level, and now has the grown-up words to express herself. And that's really healing, to be able to voice that and give that voice, or give that child a voice. It's very powerful and very impactful in the healing process.
And is that what you're focusing on in every session with everyone, or is that where you start with everybody?
It depends upon, where the person is, and I kind of meet them where they're at. We don't always get there, Mm-hmm. I mean, each person has to be willing to do the work. So if they haven't gotten to that place of willingness inside themselves, then, I meet them where they're at. And people ask, well, how long will this process take? I really can't say. It really depends upon the openness and the willingness of that individual. I really love working with people that are challenged with cancer. It's a life-threatening situation. If people aren't going to, kind of make that leap and be willing when their life is on the line, then they're never going to do it. Yeah. But I find the people that do find me that are challenged with, a serious illness like that, they're really committed to themselves and they're committed to the healing process. They show the courage and the strength of heart to really go through and move through those scary realms of the psyche that they had been ignoring.
How essential do you think this type of therapy is as a companion to the other therapies that someone dealing with cancer?
I think it's really essential. It really is, because there isn't anything else that I know of that is accessing these deeper levels. Traditional talk therapy is great. The feedback that I get, though, is that it doesn't really always get to those deeper levels, and
also fast enough too.
Fast enough, yeah. That a traditional approach can take years and years of therapy. So I just am more impatient than that. I want to see people heal and get on with their lives. If someone's staying with me for years, I feel like I failed in some way,
Yeah.
Then again, maybe that's what they need for their process.
But also, don't you think, like in life, we're growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's never going to be an end. It's funny, I'm reading this in Ask and It Is Given right now. There's never going to be an end. We're never going to get to the place that we want to be, because once we get to a place we want to be, there's a next place to get to be.
Absolutely.
So we're always going to be growing, and with growing is going to come pains. That's why there are growing pains. So we're always going to need some assistance as we make these leaps forward. I would think.
And that's how it works. I do have people that I've worked with over many, many years, but I work with them in spurts, so maybe I'll see them for like 6 months or, that, and then I won't hear from them for a while, because they've come to a level that they're really satisfied and they're happy and their life is going well. And then, something else comes up in their life. And so I hear from them again, and we do a little bit more work, and and that's the way life is. I mean, we're always growing, and there's never any arrival point. I mean, we're all going to get to the final destination, which is when we leave the planet, But along the way, there's always opportunities for personal growth, for learning, for healing. And that's the exciting part. It's all about the journey.
So now, when you talk about illness and disease and cancers, you say that they don't happen overnight, that they're caused by an accumulation of toxins and imbalances over time.
Yes.
Do you believe then that cancer is largely preventable?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't have a lot of control over the environmental toxins that, we're surrounded with daily. There's some things that we can do to minimize the toxins that we're exposed to, putting water filters so we're not getting the fluoride in our water, being conscious of the products that we use in our homes. So there's things that we can minimize, but we can't eliminate it entirely. But what we can do is we can support our immune system, because our immune system is brilliantly designed to meet all of these challenges, or many of the challenges. And our immune system it's not just about the foods that we ingest. So it's a given, you want to stay away from pesticides and highly processed foods and stuff that are harder on the body. But also our thinking and our emotions, that affects our immune system tremendously. How we hold thoughts and beliefs in our bodies emotionally can either weaken our immune system or strengthen it.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So if we're holding on to lower vibration emotions such as shame or guilt, which are like the lowest vibration, and maybe it's something that was shameful, or someone that that child believed was shameful in their history, and they've held on to that shame. It's been residing in their body as kind of like this low-grade chronic stress. And with that, I visualize it at this, like the steady low-grade drip of cortisols, the stress hormones that are, just constantly there in the body. And that's taxing the immune system, And eventually that accumulation of low-grade stress and cortisol levels will weaken the immune system, and the kind of dis-ease settles into weakened parts of the body, whatever that is for that individual. And, so that's how disease can take hold into the body. So there's so much that we do have control over with our thoughts and our beliefs.
And I like you saying that because it's not like when I think of strengthen our immune system, I think of eat more berries and have more vitamin C, but it's deeper than that.
It's so much, yeah. I mean, nutrition is just, one part of it. So I love the work of Dr. Kelly Turner. She's in Heal documentary, and she, researched, I think it was like 1,000 or 1,500 cancer survivors, and she asked the question that oncologists never asked of their patients: what did you do that you feel healed your cancer or got rid of your cancer? And she found out that there were 75 things that people did, and but they didn't all do the same things in common. But however, there were 9 things that they did do in common. And out of those 9 things, only 2 of them were nutritional. All the other 7 had to do with mind, body, spirit practices.
I just got the chills everywhere. I remember when I saw this that I got the chills too. So let's talk about those 9 things that all of these cancer survivors had in common.
Yeah. So
wait, she wrote Radical Remission, right?
She wrote Radical Remission.
I have that book, Radical Remission. It's amazing.
Yeah, she's awesome. So she's really great. And gosh, I don't have the list in front of me. Do you have it?
Here they are. Radically changing your diet.
So that's nutritional, right?
Taking control of your health.
Mm-hmm.
Following your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Using herbs and supplements. Releasing suppressed emotions. Increasing positive emotions. Embracing social support. Deepening your spiritual connection. And finally, 9, having strong reasons for living.
Mm-hmm.
Which ones of those do you want to pick apart for people? I feel like people know how to radically change their diet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's lots of information about diet.
Taking control of your health, I would assume, is really focusing on it, getting the screenings and the testings that you need to do, and following up with all your appointments and taking your medicines.
Yeah, I think it's more than that, too. It's really taking responsibility for your health, because so many times, and I think maybe it's an older generation, I know it was the case in my mother's generation, that she didn't really want to take responsibility for her health. It was much easier for her to go to the doctor and, complain that she wasn't feeling well, that she had aches and pains, and doctor, give me some pill that is going to make my pain go away.
Yeah.
That model doesn't work.
Nope.
It just doesn't work. And it was really sad to see. I'll share, the story of my own mom. She had chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. And I always sensed that, this wasn't something that just happened to her. This, there wasn't some injury that made her have this, these aches and pains. And when I would talk to her about, Mom, I think it's really about your emotional state of being, and you're unhappy, and when you fight with your husband, Tony, and, and you guys don't talk for so long, you're holding on to all of that emotional stress in your body, and then, of course, it makes you depressed, when you're getting the cold shoulder and silent treatment for days on end, and you're just eating yourself up inside, and it manifests into physical pain and depression. And so she'd go to the doctor, and the doctor would prescribe some antidepressant medication. Well, it didn't get rid of any pains. And then he would prescribe muscle relaxer or something. I mean, none of that is addressing what's really going on. Her brother, my uncle, was a psychiatrist and a psychoanalyst. So I was kind of raised with that information and background and that kind of talk. And he was a very loving man, but I think he was also very steeped in the kind of mind and the psyche, the neurology. I don't even know if he, in his own practice, got to those deeper levels.
Yeah. It's a different thing.
It's a different thing. And I teach heart and soul-centered communication skills, because so much of the time our stress is with our most, closest relationships, our partners, or our spouses, our family members. Mm-hmm. No one teaches us in school how to talk to each other. When I was married for 16 years, and we went to a therapist because we fought a lot. Mm-hmm. And the therapist was a behavioral therapist. And so he was really good at teaching us and giving us guidelines on how to fight, fight
how to fairly.
Fight fair. And, time limits and timeouts and all this kind of stuff. But he knew nothing about how to teach us to communicate from those deeper levels, from the heart and the soul level. Which
gives you a whole other level of compassion.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, we were all up in our minds, right? I'm right. No, you're not right. I'm right. And you don't get anywhere with that kind of dialogue. We come to the conversation with those protection mechanisms that are residing on the subconscious level, that inner saboteur voice that's saying, I'm not going to let you get hurt again. So you're going to stand your ground right now. And you're going to be heard.
And we're always right.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, duh. So we need to strategize on how to win the argument, clearly. Unfortunately, we have to take a quick break, Dianne. We'll be right back, guys, with more with Dianne Porchia.
Welcome back to Conversations with Maria Menounos.
We are back, guys, with Dianne Porchia, holistic health and wellness coach. And I'd love to finish the story about your mom.
So to give you an example of what was going on in her life when she got chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia was a lot of emotional upset with her husband. But if we're going to go deeper, it really goes, you have to look much further back. So in my mom's case, when she was born, her natural mother died as a result of giving childbirth. Okay. So, and then she had 3 other mother figures that, kind of came and left. She had a wet nurse for a while. Then there was a nanny. And I guess it was the 3rd. And then her father finally remarried. And that woman that I always knew as my grandmother, but she wasn't my biological grandmother, had 2 other children. And she favored her own 2 children over the first baby, which was my mom. So my mom grew up in a household that was kind of like a Cinderella. She had all the, crappy jobs that she had to do. Her father was very strict.
She wasn't enough.
And she also grew up entering the world thinking that this world was a hostile world. It wasn't friendly. When she would get sick, it was the only time that her father was nice to her. The only time that she received love and attention from him in a positive way was when she wasn't feeling well. So as she grew up, that became like a survival strategy, a mechanism in the subconscious. So, jump forward to her relationships. She also had 2 husbands that died.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, abandonment, right? So abandonment issues that throughout her whole life. There was even
No
more.
wonder she was tired.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, it's no wonder she got chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
Her soul was probably tired, right?
Yeah, and there was more to, she actually ran away and eloped when she was, I think, 18 and married her first husband, and they were entertainers, and they were in the carnival, and she used to sing and dance and do on little skits, little vaudeville skits and stuff with this family. She married into this Italian family that had 2 other daughters and their son, and they were very mean to her. She was more attractive than the other girls were. The girls were jealous of her. When she got pregnant, they didn't allow her to go to a doctor. She couldn't, see a doctor until she was ready to deliver, and then she had to just find someone,
So she had a lot of traumas that led to this chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
And did you work on her at that point and help her get through this? And I'm sure that's even tough. Like, those closest to you really can
something
not help.
When I was growing up, this was part of the family story. that I didn't really understand the full significance of it like I do now. I mean, I've been doing this work since 2001. My mom passed in 2004. I didn't have the tools that I have now. We kind of looked to my uncle, her brother, to kind of be the person that knew everything. He was a psychiatrist, and they were all the kids actually were traumatized. I found out as I grew up that my grandfather was not a very nice guy. Yeah. He was cruel in many ways, not just to my mom, but to, all of the kids. Her survival strategy was to get sick in order to get attention and to not suffer the wrath of yelling and screaming.
Ooh, so what you just said, I think happens to so many people.
Yes.
Can we talk about that?
Yes. Yeah.
How often do you see that?
A lot. I get chills right now. I mean, I know it happened with my mom, and whenever I hear about fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, I immediately think of my mom's story.
Yeah.
And how is this, sickness serving you? Sickness was serving her because she didn't get yelled at as much.
I feel like my mom had the same thing happen. That's why I always said, I'm like, I think this happened for her, not to her, because she needed to be treated better than she was. She needed to be the queen. And all of that has now happened. And I think that a lot of people wait for the excuse of being sick to actually treat themselves better or to believe that they deserve better.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they get the sympathy and the attention, and, from other people, and it's like that makes them feel good.
Yeah.
When I would go up to visit my mom, she, because she lived up in Sacramento, so I wouldn't see her all the time. But when I would go there, when I talked to her on the phone, she would say, "Oh, I feel so badly, Dianne. I'm just, I can't wait for you to get here. And I just don't have any energy." And I'm just like, oh God, what do you do?
Yeah.
And so when I would get there.
When they enjoy being a victim, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And so when I would arrive, she would just be full of life and energy and is like, "Oh, let's go out to lunch. Let's do this. Let's do that." She'd say, "You're like a shot in the arm. You're like a tonic when you come to visit. I just feel so good when you're here." And of course I would cook for them, and, I would kind of do all these nurturing things, and we'd go out and we'd have a good time. And then, when I would get ready to leave, she gradually declined. Another very interesting thing happened when she had a stroke later on, and they were living in a retirement community where they'd all have, dinners together. And her dementia was starting to set in then. There was another elderly man that lived in this retirement home, and she took a fancy to him. She got this like schoolgirl crush on this older gentleman that lived there. And all of a sudden, she was like 20 years younger. She was down in the pool and singing and dancing in the water and, dressing up. She didn't have any aches and pains. The fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, gone.
So what do you attribute it to?
She was in love.
Yeah. And probably being treated the way she had always wanted to be treated and deserved to be. I mean,
it was all in her mind, but yeah.
So we're gonna take another break. When we come back, I want to talk about people who are in toxic situations, whether at home or at work, and how they can implement some of the tools that you have to help them, or do they need to completely remove themselves? Because I feel like we're all like 1 minute away from getting that call, and you may stay in something too long. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we're going to get those answers from Dianne. Thanks.
From news and pop culture to fitness and health to relationships and careers.
This is Conversations with Maria Menounos.
Guys, we are back with Dianne Porchia. And so I want to get back to the question we asked just before the break. A lot of people are in those toxic situations where their body is in fight or flight. Okay. I know I was in them. It took a brain tumor for me to pull myself out of them and to allow myself to be in a happier, more beautiful place at any cost. But it usually takes something like that for us to wake up and to realize that this is not a normal state for our bodies to be in constantly. So whether it's at home or at work, what are some of the tips that you have from your practice and from what you do to help people either come to the realization that they may need to leave the situation, or how do they handle it better?
Yeah. Well, many times people can't just leave the situation. They need the roof over their head.
Been there.
Yeah. So, the best thing that they can do if they can't physically remove themselves from that situation is to not pull themselves into it, not let themselves get pulled into it. If someone is, throwing out a lot of toxicity, mentally, emotionally, protect yourself energetically. You can visualize putting a white light around you, and that's a protective light that surrounds you so that energy is not entering your sphere. And also remind yourself that this, gift that this person is trying to give me does not belong to me. This gift of toxic thinking.
Why do you call it a gift?
I think I learned that from Wayne Dyer. It's,
So even bad things can be called gifts?
Well, it's...
Well, I guess so. I'm the one who says it all the time. This brain tumor was a gift. Most people would think that was bad. So, okay, I get it now. It took me a second. I'm wrapping my head around it.
Yeah, so whatever the other person is offering or requesting or demanding, that's what they want. That's going on inside of them. It's not necessarily what you want or what you have to accept and receive. One of the things that I learned during my master's course in spiritual psychology, they had us pick our most challenging relationship, and we were supposed to try and heal it. And my most challenging relationship was my brother, who was a big challenge.
I've been there.
And so, they wanted us to have conversation. It's like, no, I don't want to have a conversation with this guy. I just don't want to be around his energy. It was too toxic. And then they said, well, okay, there are ways that you can heal this relationship and you don't even have to communicate with that person. So that, okay, I like that.
Yeah, I'm in for that. Teach us.
So they said the first thing was get a photograph and put that photograph, make a little space in your home, like a little altar or something, and send that person light. Send that person love and light, and know that whatever it is that they are trying to give you, make you do, or whatever, does not belong to you. That's theirs. You don't have to react. You don't have to respond. You can just quietly and very groundedly offer them light for their journey and their struggle, whatever that struggle is, and leave it. You don't have to do anything. It's really...
Did it work?
It was very interesting because it did work. There was a weird thing that happened. I mean, I hadn't spoken to him for quite a long time, years. We had a big fight, and he called me out of the clear blue and was nice and reaching out to me. And I thought, that's really weird.
Yeah. Well, because you sent energy. Kevin and I were in a fight the other day, like a good one. And I was so angry and I was like, "Rrr." And then I was like, no, Maria, you got to change the energy. And so I kept sending him love. Like I literally envisioned hearts coming out of me and going to him. And someone who would never get up off his couch, like once he's settled in, when he's settled in, he doesn't want to get up. He actually got up off his couch in his office and came into mine and gave me a hug. And I was like, holy shit, this works.
It does.
So it does work. It's just in the moment, you have to be strong enough to shift your energy from hate to love or anger to love.
It does. It's really remarkable. And in my brother's
So do we do that with our toxic bosses and stuff?
Yeah. So don't engage and, put a protective shield around you and send them light for their journey. We're not responsible for fixing them.
Yeah, exactly. So now you have your practices in Topanga Canyon, but don't you do some kind of retreat for people too?
Yeah. So
like if people listening want to,
people can do retreats with me. I've had people fly out from all, different parts of the country and stuff to do a week-long retreat with me. And it can be anywhere from 3 to 5 days. And I will, give them resources where they can find a nearby bed and breakfast or Airbnb. And I set up a program with them where I work with them for 2 hours each day that they're there. And then there's other things that fills their other time. They can receive massage. I'll send them to yoga, to dance, to movement, to sound healings, even flotation tanks. So it's a whole little program for them. And then we spend 2 hours every day. And they go home with a take-home action plan where they have action steps to take, on all the 4 levels, which are the physical level, the mental level, the emotional level, and the spiritual level. So it's a very complete program, and then we can continue the work by phone.
I love that. Dianne, thank you so much for joining us and for helping us out with all of this. If you want to see her in the documentary Heal, it's available on Netflix.
I'm not
believe.
sure. I know it's on. It's remained the #1 iTunes download since February.
Okay, got it. So you can get it Amazon. On iTunes. Her Instagram is at Topanga Retreat. And our website is www.portiaswish.com. We'll put that up on our website, right, ladies?